My name's Steve. I'm the head of web engineering at Yale, or Yale.com. You may have seen we've dumped some pieces of paper on your doorstep recently. Do read them. They're wonderful. But I manage and help to run Yale.com. And over the last few years, we've had a horrible kind of time with changing names and identities and stuff, but we're getting better. And one of the things about getting better is we get a time to kind of occasionally reinvent ourselves. And over the last year or so, I think we've managed to do that. But anyway, this is about HTTPS, something that should be incredibly easy, but really, really isn't. So I'll start the story at London Web Standards, an event that myself and Dave in the front helped to run. And we've been running this for years now. But I was talking to Dan Applequist, who's the co-chair of the TAG, the Technical Architecture Group at the W3C. And he'd just given a talk on web security, privileged features, and HTTPS. And we were in the pub, and I was saying, well hold on. Yale.com is a directory service. We mail you all of this information. Why do we actually need to be on HTTPS? And Dan basically told me, think about all the queries that your users are actually putting through this website. They're searching for legal counsel, family planning clinics, as well as regular plumbers, hairdressers, schools, anything. All sorts of private and local identifiable information. If I was kind of a hacker interested in intercepting your traffic, I could find out an awful lot of stuff about you. And that's scary. That's really scary. That's what absolutely got me here. So like thinking, yeah, you're right. All this stuff is stuff that we shouldn't, should be secure. The whole web should be secure. And he carried on saying, Google is really pushing on this. It's now a search engine ranking factor. And if I'm selling it to my boss, which I then the next morning went and did, this is what you'll major on. Because obviously, around 85% of Yale's traffic comes from Google, something ridiculously high like that. So if any sort of Google SEO ranking is really, really important to us. So whose here's website is on HTTPS? 2 hands. That's not too bad, actually. How many are moving or in the process of a transition? Half, half. Okay, and how many are just going to stay stolidly on HTTP because it's good and everyone still can use it? There's some people missing. I mean, how hard can this be? So this is how I started thinking, yeah, right, I'm in engineering. I'm going to talk to my product people. They're very lovely people. I'm going to talk to security, and I'm going to talk to operations. And you'll notice at the bottom here, there is a bar. It starts in January. It goes a long way. This is 2015. So, okay, so we had to start. So you start what you normally think you do. You take so Yale.com as an application is 20 years old. It is ever so slightly older than The Guardian. Its first domain name was IYP, the Internet Yellow Pages. Sorry, EYP, the Electronic Yellow Pages, which switched to Yale.com in the year 2000. So yes, it's older than The Guardian. And because I was talking to Patrick Haman in the pub as well, it was always very nice to say that we got to HTTPS before The Guardian, even though he moved on. So it's a very, very, very old website. And it's there are layers and layers and layers of applications, UIs, servers, load balancers, all sorts of things that you find on a very large product and production website. So when you're moving to HTTPS, you start local. You start at home. You take your development environment that's sat on my laptop, that very laptop there, and I go, okay, I'm going to make a certificate. So I start up OpenSSL, and I started to generate myself a self-signed certificate. Okay, that's not that hard. There's loads of guides on the internet. There's some very, very useful ones about getting the green padlock on OS X, about actually taking some properties and putting it into OpenSSL and then generating that and installing it on Apache. And one of the best ones is the Mozilla SSL configuration data. Quite literally, you put in on Apache. It's kind of old, and I want all these things, and it literally generates you all the different things you will need in order to be on in order to get that green padlock. And then later that day, hooray, it's working. I'm on HTTPS. It took me a day. Yeah, not quite. So yes, it's running locally on HTTPS, and it's secure. Wonderful. Does it work? No, of course it doesn't. So you then have to just kind of go through and look at what breaks. You're on HTTPS, you look at what breaks. So the first things we looked at Adobe Analytics, which is the analytics provider. You may have heard of Omniture, older version of that. There are alternatives to Google Analytics. This is one of them. All of our adverts, they broke. No great loss, though people did complain. Our entire review section, that broke. And finally, a lot of URLs, canonical URLs, and everything else. So basically, you have a website that doesn't work, but it's on HTTPS. You've got to make sure it's on HTTPS. It's not really as easy as just kind of shoehorning the S into the URLs. Though strangely, that actually solved most of the problems. If you then, I went through the entirety of the website and put an S into most of the URLs, and they worked, because it's all on the same domain, and there's no awkward subdomains for a lot of things. And it just worked, and that was great. Except for the following exceptions. Our advertising network. So our ad network, we use AdTech, AOL's AdTech service. They can easily serve their scripts over HTTPS. I went and talked to our advertising manager, who's in the building, very nice guy. And he gave me access to the documentation, which of course is behind a username and password. Don't know why. Then I dug through that, found that, okay, you just change this bit of the request script, and then it comes over HTTPS. Yeah, great. So AdTech is being served over HTTPS. Are its adverts being served over HTTPS? No, of course they're not. Yeah. So there's this problem with the advertising industry, and the IAB know this. So apparently 80% of it supports HTTPS. So the major players, DoubleClick, AdTech, and lots of the others, they do support it. However, they realized they messed up when in iOS 9, when it introduced ad blocking. They quickly issued a statement, which is basically, guys, you don't like these adverts. We get it. They are terrible for your web performance. And so we're going to do better. We are going to serve lean adverts. Light, encrypted, ad choice supported, meaning that they can follow you around, but you can tell them not to. And non-invasive. So all these modular popovers, these will go away. And that's a really, really big thing. So when we actually first launched HTTPS, occasionally you get a blank 300 by 250 block box, because it didn't work, because that particular advert was not served over HTTPS. Luckily for us, Yale's revenue is not from that. Take major publishers, Guardian and such, this is a much bigger problem for them, because that's where the revenue comes from, and they can't just shut even 20% out. So lucky for us, we could continue. However, I have had to talk to all of these people. This is growing. It is now middle of February. So the next one, I talked to Adobe Analytics. Now, Google Analytics, it just works. They've supported HTTPS for a very long time. So have Adobe, of course. But obviously, we didn't have it configured that way. Why would we? We were on HTTP, so we made it work with HTTP. So we had to contact Adobe. And to do that, I had to find out who in the company was an Adobe administrator, which wasn't me, or anyone in my department. Or anyone in this country, actually. I had to find who they were, and I had to get onto Adobe support, and then I had to send them an email. They sent me back a request, and they enabled first-party domains for us after we'd sent them a certificate, which was very nice of them. And we also, at the same time, very, very cautiously updated to the latest version of their tracking script. Now, people who have Google Analytics, this is not a problem for them. But Omniture, Adobe Analytics, you host the script, and therefore you are responsible for updating it. Ours was 2-3 years out of date, And considering that this is where all of the value actually is, because what Yale does is we supply adverts, and we tell the small businesses of this world how well that advert is doing. This is the core. So it actually took me until just start of April to get this through, after very cautiously, as I said, updating to the latest version of Omniture. But also, we had a few other little benefits out of that. I think I shaved about 100 milliseconds off each request. That was rather nice. But once again, time has just gone. Well, I started out over here, and I'm still not finished. I've not even got through the majority of the problems yet. And it's now April, and time has just disappeared. And then, of course, well, there's this other system. In 2010, we bought a company called Trusted Places. Anyone ever heard of Trusted Places? One. You used to use it. Yeah. Do you use Yellow reviews? No. There we go. Don't worry, no one else does. The review system, we have a Java stack. The review system was written in PHP. We don't have any PHP developers. How does that work? In 2010, we replaced, sorry, not in 2010. In December, we actually replaced the entire system with a fast one. That means your reviews actually got published in 30 minutes. Sorry, no, in 30 seconds, not 30 minutes. We replaced a lot of legacy. I had to do a lot of duplication there. A duplication of effort, and it's one of those things. Every system is going to have one of those things, this one component that is completely unloved and that you just can't update, or you don't know how to update, or that hasn't been deployed for years. No, I don't have a deployment script for it. What on earth happens? So everyone has one of those. You have to live with it. There's no easy way. I mean, there is no easy way to do HTTPS with such a large website, except unless you keep going. So I kept going. And then, of course, so I've only currently got a local certificate, which is a self-signed certificate. If you try and visit that in a web browser, you basically get that. And that, of course, is no good. No one's going to trust that. You get a big message on your screen. There are plenty of other types of certificates. So there is what's called a DV certificate, or a domain validated. They look like that, which is on, that's MS Edge. That's just a padlock, or it's a green padlock on other browsers. These are certificates which you can get relatively cheaply. Let's Encrypt, they do free DV certificates. Start SSL, they also do free DV certificates. The Let's Encrypt ones are much easier to get, though you have to renew them every 4 months. The thing with the DV certs is, okay, actually there's nothing wrong with them. There actually isn't anything wrong with them. But you can go a level higher, which is extended validation certificates. Now, if you're using Chrome, Firefox, and you see a browser with one of these in it, you will see, okay, that is an EV certificate. Basically, you've gone through a whole other level of validation to actually just say, yes, this is definitely me. This is the kind of mark of trust. You'll notice this is our old company name, actually, but it's the name of the company that we used to trade under. So this one actually, in order to get our EV certificate, we had to actually talk to, I had to talk to my security team again, who then talked to our legal team, had to talk to Companies House and adjust the names of our DNS registrar, sorry, our domain name registrar records to then make sure that the Yale.com one matched exactly what was in Companies House. Otherwise, EV certs don't work. Thankfully, I didn't have to do this. But that's what the kind of certificates look like. So you see what certificate is there. That's kind of what it looks like. It's just a whole bunch of stuff. It's just there. It's still, so that's actually my self-signed one, which is why it's up on this screen, obviously. But yeah, it isn't hard. It just takes time. The only reason why it's actually worth it is on Edge. It's the only one that actually makes the browser bar go green. On Edge, it's not actually a green, yes, I'm exactly who I say it is. So we spend the extra time doing it. And now I've talked to all these people, and it is the middle of May. Time obviously keeps passing. There are other third parties, which I'm going to briefly skim over, though I will probably come back to one of them. We have an anti-scraping tool. So Yell's value is in its data. We have 2.7 million businesses that are in the UK listed. So we get scraped all the time. So we have an anti-scraping tool. They sit in front of us, and to actually to get an EV cert, our EV cert for them, we had to spend some money for a private IP address. It's worth it. It's just one of the things we had to do, but also, yet again, more people to talk to. We also had we have a CDN for hosting videos. If you've ever looked really closely, Yell.com isn't actually hosted on a CDN or in the cloud. It's actually got a data center. Imagine those. You've got a data center these days. Because of that data center, the CDN is, of course, once in a global contract, which we don't control. Therefore, we haven't actually been able to update it. It costs money, so we have to make change requests, and because it's actually run by the US, we still haven't got there. If you look at cdn.yell.com, it does not run on HTTPS. We still have not got there. Nearly 16 months after I've started this. We're nearly there with this one, nearly, but not quite. But also, that particular host doesn't support SNI. So SNI is a technology that stands for Server Name Identification. Means that you don't have to have a unique IP address for a certificate in order to actually use HTTPS. If you use XP, Windows XP, who uses Windows XP? Awesome. No. At work, okay, fine. I'll let you off. You would not be able to see this website because it's on HTTPS, and Windows XP does not do this. That was a surprise. I really didn't think anyone would say yes. But not everyone supports it, even though this SNI is a technology which is almost a decade old. So I've talked to quite a few people now, and it's now June. But of course, to actually get the money for all of this, because on this last slide, I've now spent some money. My title is Head of Web Engineering. Actually, my title of Head of Web Engineering changed here. Nothing really happened until here, so I don't have any sort of budget or anything like that. So I have to write a business case. Who here has written a business case? That's a small number of people, mostly the older people in the audience as well. I mean, it's not easy. Who knows how to write a business case, or even where to start? Google. Yeah, there's shit. Honestly, there is no really good stuff about how to write a business case. One of my friends from a management consultancy I used to work at literally he dug around and find me some really old government guidelines on how to write a business case. There's really not much out there, and certainly nothing for software devs or for these kind of projects. This is quite hard. A lot of people say, oh, I've got to spend some money. Oh, I'll have to ask my boss. Is it important for your boss? If it's not, they probably won't waste their time, and that's where you get stuck. This took months. And we'll just leave it at that. It took months. You had to get signed off. You had to go to the investors, of all things. Madness, absolute madness. But we're now nearly live, okay? We're now nearly there. It is the middle of July. And now people have suddenly thought, hold on, this is actually going to happen. Steve's not just mad. He's not just kind of on this little crusade on his own. He's actually going to do this. And so people said, okay, well, we have some concerns about performance. Is TLS fast yet? Yeah, of course it is. It is fast. It is. There's an entire website about it. Go and read that if you need any kind of evidence about it. We agreed to terminate the connection as close to the edge of the network as possible. Now, I've already described our anti-scraping. That's a man in the middle. If literally it sits in front of us. Now, I wasn't willing to say, okay, we have a data center, we have a man in the middle, which is in a different data center. The traffic between those two would have to go over a public network. That wasn't something I wanted to do. So we terminate the network connection twice. Once at our anti-scrape, and then it re-encrypts it, and then it comes back to us, and then we decrypt it again. There's a performance penalty for that, and I'll show you exactly what that is. But there is a performance penalty anyway. We'll get to it. But of course, we have our load balancer, so we had to make sure that was up to date. This actually happened in March. We flipped the switch to put that live in the early July, because our load balancer, being 20 years old, it's a Citrix NetScaler, if you're really interested. We were on to like 9.5. We updated to 10.5. I thought, oh, look, there's a button there that says speedy. Tick it. Everything fails. Untick it quite quickly. So we made sure everything was up to date, and that modern stuff, if you are doing HTTPS, you've got to be on modern stuff. OpenSSL and its performance for decrypting, especially the stronger Eclipse Core Curve ciphers, you've really got to have a modern version of 101 or 102 in order to actually get enough performance for it to not actually be a problem for you. But of course, people said, well, we'll have to wait and see. So, okay, we'll see. We'll exactly see. We use SOASTA's MPulse tool to monitor real user measurement timings. And we said, okay, we'll monitor it. And we'll see, and we'll make performance tweaks afterwards. So, before the button push, I've talked to all of these people. And it's July. And we finally reached the big day, 31st of July, 2015. You press the button. But on that big day, we had to do all the following things, because they don't work on HTTPS and HTTP. We have to update our sitemap, 10 million links. Our robots.txt file, much smaller. Google Search Console or Webmaster Tools as it used to be. We've got to make sure you register the property and that you're tracking everything. Otherwise, how on earth do you know what's actually going on? And then actually set up our redirects. So if you have HTTP and HTTPS, and we did actually have them running side by side for a couple of weeks, unless you're actually redirecting people to HTTPS, no one's going to go there. Google had 18 million search results for us, and those were all HTTP. So we had to update them somehow, and Google will get there. I'll show you a graph in a minute. So you have to redirect, and you have to do what's known as a HTTP 301 redirect, which is a permanent redirect. Literally, we have gone from HTTP to HTTPS, and you have to do this for every URL, every single one of them. If you do a 302, which is a normal kind of redirect, if you're doing a PHP like server-side redirect or any of that, that will normally do a temporary redirect, which is a 302. That isn't good enough. You have to do a 301, which you had to configure with the NetScaler, so I had to learn all the NetScaler rules. Anyway, I pressed the button, and no one died, thankfully. No one died. So, after so it's August. Now, what do you think was the actual benefits of doing this? So what did we actually gain? Any bets in kind of search engine, kind of average placement ranking? Any bets? No? No one even wants to hazard a guess?
Further down?
No, not further down. Though some did go down. 0.2 places. So worth it. 0.2 places over. So there was this crazy thing where Google updated their algorithm. Then we did a massive relaunch literally 14 days later. We only have like 2 weeks, maybe a week's worth of data. We could actually say this is exactly what HTTPS did. And so it was only for only 0.2 places for the URLs that got updated during that week, which are our most popular URLs, so that's okay. Anyway, so that translates into less than 2% click-through. But 2% is actually quite good. I mean, that's the thing, right? This HTTPS ranking, Google has made so much about this SEO ranking that it's got blown out of all proportion. It's described as a tie-break. A tie-break. So what this means is, if all else is equal, be on HTTPS and the other guy isn't, we'll put you above it. That's it. the correlation factor between ranking and ranking in HTTPS is 0.04. For anyone who does maths, that's like a, that maybe. It's not exactly a direct correlation, which is 1. 0, it's about there. That, nothing. Absolutely nothing. We did it anyway. So this is, over time, how Google indexed us as a percentage of the total number of pages. That is the 7th of February this year, 2016, and that is when we launched the first week of August. Google is still indexing us after all this time. Still going. Because there's so much. And to take a large site over this journey, it does take a very long time. So that 0.2 is literally there on that many pages. That was the ranking boost there. Am I over yet? No, cool, thanks. So what else went wrong, I suppose is the question. As I said earlier, our Java is our stack. Now, we have a slightly older version of Java than we'd like to have, and it occasionally just stops sending requests. The next Monday I got in and someone said, Steve, no one can make this product called Premium Listings anymore. It just doesn't work. Okay, great. How's that my problem? Because there's a request to HTTP in Java. Java doesn't have TrustWave, who is our certificate provider. It doesn't have TrustWave's root certificate in its key store. These words mean nothing to most of you, but literally the request just failed completely silently until someone noticed because they couldn't do stuff. Java did include this in version 7-ish, but upgrading Java wholesale will take us just as long as this project, if not more, and it'll take the entire engineering team to do it, not just me. So it's basically simpler to install all the missing CAs. However, a massive pro tip, always keep a non-HTTPS internal virtual IP. Always keep one around, because someone or something will need it. Something will just say, no, I don't do HTTPS, and it will fail. So always keep one around and make sure you can do something with it. And now on to performance. So we could measure this instantly, right? We could measure exactly how long the TCP request and the SSL handshake take. Then navigation time API version 2, which is supported by basically Chrome and a few others now since this, actually gives you this at a network level and reports it back to our RUM tool. Any guesses on how much time at the median, so for 50% of our traffic, how much time it added?
200 milliseconds.
200. Any further advances on 200?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Thank you. No, in fact, it was only 100 milliseconds at the median. But this is the graph. This is the 50 median. This is the 95%. So 5% of our users, the slowest 5%, are there. And that's on desktop browsers, because we were able to at least segment them. What about smartphones? I'm not going to let you guess on this one. It's fucking awful. 2 seconds. 2 seconds at the 95th percentile, and a good 250 milliseconds at the 50%. And I bet that's pretty much everyone on Wi-Fi, rather than on mobile networks. HTTPS is fast. It is not free. It can add a lot to your initial render time. Now, I made the post yesterday, and Ilya Grigorik, who wrote High Performance Browser Networking, which is what I then actually went away and took the book off my shelf, and I sat down with the Netscaler documentation, and I went through it, and I tried to update it, and tried to get things right. He then basically, in about 10 minutes, posted a forensic examination of Yale.com's TCP infrastructure, and pointed out all the different things we were doing wrong. Read the blog post, it's incredible. Unfortunately, our problem here actually is the anti-scrape, because we're behind them. We are beholden to what they are doing. we're working on this directly with them, and I've got a call tomorrow talking with them about this. So we're trying to improve it, but things like OCSP stapling, which also, once again, means nothing to people, that allows, with EV certificates, you to staple a couple of requests together, so there's only one round trip to the server rather than two. And when that is, that really matters, especially if you're doing 2 hops. There's a lot more detail in the blog post. I won't go into any more than that. It is not free. Absolutely guaranteed not free. And this is not the biggest problem I faced. So it's taken me an eternity to get here. End of August, one of my sales managers comes over to me and says, Steve, our customers' traffic has dropped off the face of the earth. At about the time you did that flip to HTTPS, anything you'd like to tell me? Shit. What am I going to do? It's just like, fuck, what the fuck am I going to do? Literally, we have many larger customers, and obviously they use Google Analytics to, they don't use all the data that we give them, that I spend ages getting on to work, to make sure we gave them. They use Google Analytics because we're not their only supplier of advertising, obviously. And so Yell as a referrer dropped off. Now, there's a very good reason why this happened. So we have studied HTTP referrers. So if you're from HTTP and you go to another HTTP website, you pass a referrer, where you basically came from. If you go to HTTPS, you pass it again. But if you, the source, are on HTTPS, you do not pass it to HTTP websites because you are secure, and they are not. Shit. 99% of our customers' websites are served over HTTP, and of that 1%, a quarter are Facebook pages. I haven't actually gone back and looked at what that stat is now. I don't really want to know. Shit. Right, how the fuck do I do this? There are options. The W3C obviously has options about how to solve this. There is a referrer policy spec, where basically in a meta tag on every page, which would be very easy for us to do, you can add a rel referrer and set content to unsafe. And it will pass the referrer to wherever the hell you want it to go. The browser support for this is that, which, and this is one of Can I Use's great feature, which puts it down to our traffic is 70%. So we could send 70% of it back. That's not it. So suddenly, hey, you've said, hey, we're losing. Imagine the sales call next year. Hey, about middle of June, we dropped 30% traffic. I'm not renewing. Shit. Okay, right. So we can't do that. What else can we do? So content security policy. Level 2 also has this. However, that browser support is approximately 40%. This is actually, in fact, how Twitter's T.co service passes referrer information, because that's on HTTPS, and obviously that's passing to HTTP sites all the time. So that sets a content security policy. So instead, we went and did things the old-fashioned way, and I made a video. I literally, I went and I made a feature which helped users use Google Analytics campaign tags. And that's the best thing we came up with. And then we applied it to everyone. Literally, we send more campaign tags than anything else to our websites. The video is there if you want to cringe. And that's it. That is how many people I actually had to talk to in order to make this happen. And I finally stopped talking to people about this about December, after I'd written this article. This article has changed a lot. And yeah, it's a massive amount of time for 0.2 places in SEO, for security. The problem with HTTPS is not technology. We can overcome that. The problem is the incentives. Previously that said perseverance, but the problem is actually incentives. Is there the incentive to carry on and do this? Maybe. Maybe. We can make things easier, but there's no real incentive at the moment. If we can get rid of the cost of DV certificates, Let's Encrypt is fantastic. I absolutely love it. Do use it if you want a free certificate. You do too, just have to renew every 4 months, but otherwise it's fine. CDNs, software as a service providers, they need to be HTTPS by default. They need to encourage that this is the way, that this is the only way. We need to provide more incentives for people. There's a spec it used to be called Powerful Features. It's now called Privileged Contexts, which means that features like service worker, geolocation, camera usage, that kind of thing, will only run on HTTPS domains. Service worker already does, but geolocation, that's happening soon. It's already been deprecated as of Chrome 43. If you use geolocation on a HTTP website, you'll get a warning in your browser console. I saw a couple of nights ago when I was looking into it a bit further, the commits have been made to completely remove it from insecure domains. Things are happening here. Chrome is being the aggressor. Great, brilliant, well done. Firefox is not far behind. It needs this kind of, it needs this push not just from developers to say, okay, we need to do this now. You can't do this unless you have this. Now, there are actually some really good reasons why service worker has to be HTTPS. There's a massively long thread on GitHub about it if you're really interested, which I linked to from the article. You can't do HTTP2 without it. We can't do HTTP2 because our man in the middle doesn't fucking support it. Nor does our Netscaler right now, but it will do if we upgrade it again, since it has, of course, over this period of time, had a major relaunch. HTTP2 is fantastic. The performance gains you get out of it, we're predicting about 30% performance improvement, which will take us from a median of about 2 seconds to 1.6. That kind of improvement just from HTTP2 is fantastic. And if you're looking at performance, that's the killer. However, it does need more support. The CDNs don't all support it right now. It's coming, but it's not quite there yet. Search engines need to make it a stronger signal. Business people don't. Some business people get the performance argument. Some business people get the security argument, but they don't really. What they get is, hey, you'll get more business from it because Google will send more people your way. That needs to be stronger. 0.2 places is bullshit. It needs to go up. And browsers need to warn against HTTP. If you're at the Chrome Dev Summit end of last year, Emily Stark stood up in front of everyone, and said, in 2016, we intend to basically put that red cross through HTTP at some point. That is going to be amazing. It's scary as, it's scary as, because Firefox is going to do it as well. No one else has said anything about it in browser manufacturers. But they say they're going to do it this year. It's going to take a lot it's going to take a lot of time. Everyone's going to be warned, but they want it to happen. It needs to be a massive incentive, because if you went to an HTTPS website and you saw the red cross through it, that's going to send you running. Let's go to an HTTP website and send you running. And people need to be educated about this. Google have just launched a migrating to HTTPS guide that Matt Gaunt helped to write. And hopefully through kind of talks like this, everyone will kind of more understand what big orgs have to go through in order to do this and why a lot of the internet isn't on it. Smaller orgs, great. Put a cert on your server. Do Let's Encrypt, done. The blog, the Yale blog that we wrote in order to do this, I did a Let's Encrypt cert. It took 5 minutes. That's how it should be. It isn't. And that's the web. There is a tag documentation document on moving to HTTPS as well. So finally, what's next? We're going to improve TCP perf. We're going to go to H2. We will then be able to take a look at HTTP strict transport security, which is another way of doing the 301s. Basically, the browser, if it knows about it, will attempt to automatically upgrade HTTP connections to HTTPS if it can, and if it knows about the header. which is a really useful way of catching the remainder. We can't do it at the moment because our CDN doesn't work, and then all videos on Yale.com will break. And then we'll do content security policy. And you can also set cookies to be HTTPS only, whereas at the moment they're set to be HTTP only, so some of the cookies don't quite work. I only found out about that yesterday. Still, learn something new every day. And we'll get our CDN done. So thank you. I hope you've learned. What have you learned? I hope you learned that HTTPS is hard. It is. And that it is worth it. In the end, it is absolutely worth it, and it certainly will be more worth it by the end of the year. If you want to do service work, you've got to go for it. That there are barriers. They can be overcome, all of them. And doing so, you will probably be in a much better place for it. Thank you for listening. Thank you. I'm on Twitter. The slides are up, and there is an epic blog post there if you do want to read it.